Gabriel's Gospel Grace, changing lives and kingdom building one stone at a time.
Well, hello and good morning to you, and welcome back to another Motivational Monday morning. Now, in the last episode, we looked at the elements of control. And just to recap, we need to identify what is within our control, which is typically our internal power, and then what is external to that, the elements outside of our control. So today we're going to carry on with that theme. We're going to talk about prioritizing our energy and where do we stick that energy. Now, modifying our own behavior and reaction is not simple because a lot of it's habit. It's something we've done over a lifetime. You know, if you're one of them people that always feels jealous of what your friends have, it's not easy to break that cycle. I have some tricks I can teach you, but it's not simple. It's not something that's organic we can just simply do for ourselves. It's something we have to be mindful of and takes patience, practice, determination, and being aware. Now, when I say mindful, we need to just clarify mindfulness. It's not mindfulness in a new age perspective way. Mindfulness is simply being present and recognizing your thoughts in that moment. Almost like taking a snapshot of your scene. So you need to identify, what am I thinking about? How am I feeling about this? Is there a dominant emotion at this point in time? Is there anger? Is there love? Is there jealousy? Is there peace? And then recognize the situation, the scenario we're in. Where are we? What is the environment? Are there people around us making us feel this way? Identify those things, because then we can hone in on exactly what we can start to improve on. That's where we can stick our energy. So as I say, it's about how we react to a situation, how we can be thoughtful. Now, we shouldn't get too confused with thoughtful often means kind, because I notice in this day and age, when people say do the thoughtful thing, typically they're referring to what is to their advantage, not necessarily to yours. Now, the thoughtful thing is to do what has been carefully considered, evaluated, weighed up, and then concluded. That is a thoughtful decision. A thoughtful decision is simply not sharing everything because it seems to be kind. So when I'm talking about thoughtful, I mean just that. You need to think about all those aspects I've said and actually make a decision based on a thought process. So you need a moment of time to reflect and evaluate. But this is where energy, and I'm talking physical as well, energy must be spent on things that need to be utilized and not things that need to be wasted. So, for example, just the other week, I was talking to a lady where I have my ministry. A lady came in and was talking about something that's happening locally regarding a wind farm. Now, she's quite passionate about it, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, I totally agree with most of what she said. The bit I disagreed on was when she asked me if I would perhaps join them in their crusade to fight this proposal that's been put forward. Now, part of that was because I'd explained in my political past, I've had to do things like this. I've had to fight things. In fact, I was dealing with things like phone masts at the time and the radiation that was being given out, and some experimental technologies in the process too. Now, I gave her some advice and wisdom. I said that the battle you need to take has to be won on the aspects of either health concerns or existing legal facts. But it wasn't that she didn't receive it well. It was the fact she still kind of nicely tried to encourage me to drop that thought and join them on their crusade. But this comes back to thoughtfulness. Because when I apply my thoughtfulness, it's not that I don't appreciate her plight and her battle and what she was going to do. And it isn't even a case that I disagree with what they intend to do. It's about, in my experience, having done these battles, I know which battles are worth fighting and applying my energy and effort to, and those which are not. Because in this sort of situation, typically, planning permission goes through local authorities, and then even if the local authorities say no, then it goes up to a higher authority. And in this case, it will probably go to the SNP government, or it would even go to the Secretary of State. And then it will probably be overturned because actually other agendas seem bigger. Again, I'm explaining all this because I need you to understand that these are all external, outside of my control. Now, let's not, this is mornings, you see, words get stumbled over. Let's not confuse control with influence, because yes, we can have influence on situations. Petitions, protesting, writing letters to MPs, etc., they do count, because I've been on the other side of this. And if I suddenly got 100 letters out of thin air about a particular matter, well, now you've got my attention, and I'll certainly be looking into it. And I'd certainly be wanting to know what your opinion is and why you have those opinions. So I'm not saying do not act, but remember, you don't have control over that situation. You have control over your emotions. So again, even in that situation, as I suggested, writing a letter can be powerful. But if you're going to write a letter to me, then make it thoughtful. Not kind, thoughtful. Construct an argument. Give me a sensible argument. Putting your personal opinions and feelings in there, it's not actually going to be helpful. It helps me understand where you're coming from. But over passionate letters, over passionate protesting, to me, if I'm honest, I see as simply emotional outbursts. I've been spending time with my granddaughter this week, and positive and negative emotional outbursts. It's amazing, isn't it? When we give a gift to someone, we're more satisfied by an emotional outburst that's really positive, like, wow, shock, horror, amazing, oh, thank you. But actually, it can go the opposite way just as equally, can't it? So, again, coming back to what we talked about last week, we need control. And the things we can control is our thoughtfulness, our decision making, our responses. So even if we are emotional, we need to put that aside for a moment and actually come up with a strategic argument and then submit it. Now, at that point, nothing's changed. So we come back to what I said. Yes, you've got influence. You're doing your part with others. But when it comes to control, now's the time to probably, having now acted, to say, okay, either this is going to happen or it's not. Now, what is the impact on my life? And what can I do about it? Now, I'd say 50% of these causes actually don't have a lot of direct impact on your personal life anyway. They probably have more of an impact on the community, but personally, they probably don't. So now we come back to the topic of today. Where is your energy spent? You need to prioritize on the things that you do have control over and the things that directly, proportionally affect your life. If you're trying to regain control in your life, then only put your effort and energy into the things that are essential. You know, in the case of a fire, I think it's always a question that's asked, isn't it, in interviews? If there was a house fire, what are the 3 items you would take from that house? It's a good question, but we don't think like that in our lives. In fact, if anything, it's the opposite. It's, I wanted to take my favourite mug, and if I want to take my favourite mug, then I better get the marshmallows because I want them in my hot chocolate. Oh, I better grab the hot chocolate. Now then, I need to get my favourite DVDs or Fire Stick or whatever it is you do these days. It's not very planned, is it? And in the case of a fire, I think you've just got burnt. So if you're trying to regain control, I'm not saying, you know, if you're already in a good place and you've got control over most things in your life, then yes, you can expand your thinking. But if it is a case of your life's kind of getting away from you, then it is about prioritizing where can I put my energy. And as I say, I think the first elements must always be your internal elements. How do I respond to situations? So again, it might well be, in fact, I had an example I talked about previously, if you remember, where there were some service works in the area and they actually cut through my water source and I had no water. Now, as it happens, being resilient that I am, I already had spare water on standby. I reached out to the farmer who brought external water I could then use for washing and topping up the toilet tank, etc. And we find a solution. But really, if you think about it, that was because I am resilient from the point of view I have control over these elements I talk about. Not the external factors. They came out of thin air. They were unexpected that day. But when I came back, I had to deal with a crisis. They said, was it a crisis? Was it really? See, on paper and externally it was, but internally it wasn't, because I was calm. There was a solution. I'd find it. And I have faith that I would find it. So, Take back control by focusing and prioritizing on the important things in your life. Do look at the aspect of, if there was a fire, what are the 3 things I would need? Take that attitude with the problems in your life. Now, the majority of problems in your life will be elements such as governmental, legal matters, social concerns or beliefs that clash with your own. But more typically, it's going to be people in your life, whether it's people in your family, whether it's work colleagues or your boss. And of course, then the last one could be to do with your health. Now, recently I've been meeting a lot of people with health problems, and some being quite serious. So they might say, well, how do I apply any of this in my life? Simple, isn't it? Life is a finite length, and that's hard for people to digest. The quality of life in the middle is possibly more to do with what healthcare professionals are dealing with in your lives. And from that perspective, then again, prioritize. Are you spending all of your days thinking on death, thinking on your pain, thinking on all the negative things that will happen when you're not here? In which case, and they are the elements, if anything, they're making you worse. You need to reframe that. You need to take back the control of your thoughts. See, at the end of the day, people watching this program may have, even yourself watching this now, you may have lost someone unexpectedly, an accident, unexpected health, heart attack. You see, planning for things, knowing potential inevitable outcomes, is still external. The internal is the bit that we have control over our own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So the first thing, if it is a health concern, is to change the attitude to positive. Identify all the negatives, which typically are going to have more to do with loss of, well, obviously life, but more importantly, I think most people are more concerned about the loss of the memories they'll never get to acquire, the opportunities they'll never get to see. Now, in some cases, some of those things that you're fearing losing, you can take action on today. You can actually plan to see people you love. You can invite them to come and see you. You can plan a trip while your health is still good enough. You can actually reframe your thinking to take your negative situation and turn it into a positive. It could be getting involved with a charity. It could be starting a charity. It could be just reaching out and helping people and making a difference. As you know, on Favourite Friday, I'm always talking about the difference we can make in other people's lives simply by giving them a smile. But if you're going through a challenging time at the moment, you can use that to benefit others, because again, exactly what I'm talking about. If you can regain control of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, if you can be thoughtful in your thinking and you can look for a positive outcome, then that's something you can teach. That's something you can share with others. You can share your experiences and how you're reframing it and dealing with it so that perhaps they can do that too. You have the power to make a difference in the world every day. And I think that's important for you all to recognise. So I've talked about control over the things we have control over, and that's pretty well our thoughts, feelings, reactions, emotions, our internal elements. But how do we handle the external? Well, there is a way. And this is the bit I think some of you are waiting for. You see, that's where, as a Christian and having faith, that's where the power of prayer comes in. Because God is always available to us. Now, the majority of people probably watching this are probably watching it for the aspects of how to regain control in your life. Well, you take care of the personal things, let God deal with the external things. And the topic of the Holy Spirit has been brought up in some of our Theology Thursdays. And of course, that's a comforter and a helper and a teacher that we have within us as born-again Christians. And if you don't know what that means, then please check out Theology Thursday, and please feel free to drop a comment so we can go into more depth on these things. So you can take control of your internal elements, and the external ones, that's where God comes into control. You know, as we speak, I'm aware that a war is now broken out in the Middle East. It's not something we can have direct influence over in our physical control, even in our mental control. But it is something we can do in our faith and belief. And that applies to your health too. So when you've taken back the elements of your personal life and you want to gain control over your external life, This is when you need to look outside yourself. And when I say outside yourself, I mean outside of the world. And yes, I know that's delving into the supernatural, but that's exactly where we find God. And God has the answers to these things. So if you're going through anything this week, I might have said some things here that are kind of shaking you to your core and you want to delve deeper, check out past episodes. Drop a comment and we can come back to this. But today, if there's something outside of your control and you really can't fix it, I challenge you to say a prayer in a quiet place, not publicly, just for yourself. And just say, Lord, reveal yourself and show me your power of control today. God bless. If you were blessed by this video, why not give it a like? Also subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of future videos.